They say children remember the moment that breaks them. For me, it was a Thursday. My name is Danielle Monroe. I was 28 when my grandfather died, but the truth is, I had already buried my parents long before that. Not in a cemetery, not with flowers. I buried them in silence, in unanswered birthdays, in school plays where I searched the crowd and found only empty chairs. I was 12 when my mother packed her bags while I was at school. I came home to a house that felt wrong before I even opened the door. Half the living room was gone. Her perfume was gone. The framed wedding photo that used to sit near the lamp was gone too. There was a note on the kitchen table. "Honey, this isn't goodbye. I just need to figure things out for me and Greg. I'll call soon. Be good for Dad. Love, Mom." Greg was her boyfriend, the kind of man who wore too much cologne and smiled at me like I was a stain on furniture he hadn't decided whether to throw away. I waited 3 weeks for that call. It never came. My father lasted a little longer. Raymond Monroe tried, at least at first. He made canned soup, forgot bills, drank too much, apologized too softly. Then one night in June, after we ate crackers for dinner, he sat beside me and said he needed to go somewhere for a while. He promised he would be back before school started. He never came back. That was how I ended up on Grandpa James's porch with a duffel bag and swollen eyes. He was my mother's father, retired Navy, widower, quiet as stone. He didn't ask me to explain. He didn't curse my parents. He just opened the door, took my bag, and said, "Come on in, Danny. You hungry?" From 12 to 24, he raised me. He bought my clothes, signed my forms, sat through parent-teacher conferences, taught me how to change a tire, cook chili, unclog a drain, and stand straight, even when life tried to fold me in half. He only spoke about my parents once. I asked him why they never came back. He looked at me for a long time and said, "Some people choose themselves. Some choose family. That's all." When he died, I was 28. The funeral was small, a few Navy friends, neighbors, me. I spoke, but my voice cracked so badly halfway through that one of his old friends had to place a hand on my shoulder. Afterward, his lawyer pulled me aside. Grandpa had left me everything. The house, his truck, and a trust he had built quietly for 20 years. $1,036,000. I cried that night, but not because of the money. I cried because someone had loved me enough to plan for my future, when the people who made me had treated me like an old mistake. 2 months later, the ghosts came knocking. First, a letter. No return address. Shaky cursive. My full name. Inside was one sentence. "We heard about the inheritance. We need to talk. It's about your siblings and your father's situation."
Siblings. Plural.
I didn't even know I had one. A week later, my mother stood at my door with 2 children behind her. She looked older, yes, but not ruined. Clean clothes, makeup, a careful, nervous smile. "Hi, honey," she said. "Can we come in?" I stared at her. "I'm not your honey." Then I shut the door in her face. She didn't leave right away. Through the peephole, I watched her glance back at the kids. A girl, maybe 8, a boy a little older, both looking like they wished the floor would swallow them. "You can't just slam the door on your mother," she called. I opened it again, just enough. "Say what you need to say, then leave." She smiled like we were continuing a conversation from yesterday, instead of resurrecting a wound 15 years old. "This is Emma and Caleb," she said. "They're your sister and brother." "Half-siblings," I corrected, at best. Her mouth tightened. "I know I wasn't around, Danielle. Things were complicated. You had enough time to disappear. I was going to reach out. You had a phone, an address, email, social media. Pick one. Her smile slipped. Then came the real reason. I know about your grandfather's estate, she said carefully. Your father is sick. He has debts. The kids need stability. We need help. There it was. We. As if that word had ever included me. This money doesn't belong to you, I said. Grandpa left it to me because he raised me, not you, not Dad, not two kids you never mentioned until you needed a checkbook. Emma flinched. For 1 second, I felt guilty. Then I remembered being 11, sitting on a porch with dry cereal in a mug, watching my mother drive away with Greg in the passenger seat. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, I said. You're sorry I'm useful now. I closed the door. This time, I didn't slam it. I didn't need to, because I already knew she would come back. People like my mother never disappear quietly when they smell money. That night, my phone rang from a blocked number. I ignored it once. Twice. On the third call, I answered and said nothing. A rough voice breathed into the silence. Hey kid, it's me. My father. Kid. As if the word could stitch together everything he had ripped apart. I know I messed up, he said. I know I don't have the right to call. But your mom told me she talked to you, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I waited. He kept going. Things are rough. I lost my job at the auto shop. My back's bad, mortgage is behind, and your siblings. Stop.
Silence.
They're not my siblings, I said. They're strangers. You're a stranger. Blood is blood. I laughed. It came out dry and bitter. You abandoned your blood. Now you want to cash in on the child you left behind? His voice hardened. I still love you. If that were true, I said, this wouldn't be the first time I heard from you in 15 years. Then I hung up. For a long time, I sat in Grandpa's old kitchen, listening to the refrigerator hum. I thought I would feel powerful. I didn't. I felt hollow. Then the texts started. Aunts, cousins, people who hadn't sent me one birthday message in years. Your mom told me what's going on. You should think about the kids. Family comes first. Family. Where was family when I was 13, stealing fruit from the cafeteria to make it through weekends? Where was family when Grandpa was dying and I held his hand alone? The final blow came from my cousin Lorraine. A Facebook post. A photo of Emma and Caleb. Some kids don't deserve the pain adults cause. Praying for these two as they face uncertainty because of someone else's greed. The comments were worse. Money changes people. Hope their sister grows a conscience. Disgusting. They didn't tag me. They didn't have to. So I went to Grandpa's filing cabinet and pulled out the folder he had labeled, "In case they ever come back." Inside were letters, emails, legal notes, and one notarized declaration. I, James Everett Monroe, state that any inheritance, trust, or asset left to my granddaughter Danielle Monroe is to be used solely at her discretion. Her parents, Raymond and Dana Monroe, are to have no access to these funds, nor should they request assistance under the disguise of family obligation. They forfeited that right. At the bottom, Grandpa had written one line by hand. You don't owe them anything. I raised you. Protect what I left you. I read it twice. Then I opened my laptop and began to write. My post went live at 11:43 p.m. I remember the exact time because my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone after pressing publish. The caption was simple. I wasn't going to say anything, but since my name is already being dragged through the mud, here's the truth. Then came everything else. Photos of Grandpa James teaching me how to fish when I was 14. Screenshots of unanswered messages I sent my parents years ago. Copies of notarized documents. Excerpts from Grandpa's handwritten letters. And finally, the line that split my family straight down the middle. They left me when I was a child. The man who raised me wasn't my parents. It was my grandfather. They are not entitled to my money, my silence, or my forgiveness. Then I logged off. By morning, the post had exploded. Thousands of shares, hundreds of comments. My inbox looked like a battlefield. Some people apologized, others doubled down. Lorraine deleted her original post and replaced it with a public apology. Danielle, I didn't know the truth. I'm sorry for judging you. Another cousin messaged me privately. We all knew something was wrong growing up. Nobody wanted to say it out loud. Funny how people suddenly found their voices after the evidence became public. My mother stayed silent for 2 days. Then the voicemail came. Danny, I didn't know you were hurting this much. Her voice sounded soaked in sadness, but there was something underneath it. Irritation. Like my pain had become inconvenient for her. I thought maybe we could fix this, she whispered. But now it feels like you declared war on your family. War. No. War implied both sides had been fighting all along. I'd been abandoned. That wasn't war. That was surrender. My father didn't bother with voicemail. He showed up. I spotted him outside my apartment building, leaning against a rusted Chevy, cigarette between his fingers. He looked thinner than I remembered. Older. His shoulders slumped beneath a faded work jacket. But the second he saw me, I recognized the same man who walked away from me all those years ago. We need to talk, he said. No, you need money. His jaw flexed. You really put everything online, huh? You really abandoned your daughter, huh? That hit him. I saw it in his eyes. For a second, guilt flickered there before anger buried it alive. You made us look like monsters. I laughed softly. You did that yourselves. He stepped closer. You think you're better than us now because you got lucky? I didn't get lucky, I said quietly. I got left behind. Then someone else loved me enough to stay. The silence between us tightened. Cars passed. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Then he tried a different angle. Emma and Caleb didn't do anything wrong. Neither had I. But nobody cared about that when I was a kid. I'm not responsible for cleaning up your life, I told him. His expression darkened. You'll regret this. I smiled without warmth. Funny. Grandpa said you'd say that. Then I walked away. That night, around 11, my apartment buzzer rang again. My mother stood downstairs holding a folder against her chest. I didn't answer. She stayed there for almost 30 minutes before finally leaving it outside my door. Inside were old-school drawings, report cards, and a Mother's Day card I'd made when I was 7. Glitter glue, crooked hearts, crayon handwriting. I love you, Mommy, forever. Underneath everything was a note. You don't have to forgive us. Just don't erase us completely. For one dangerous second, my chest tightened. Then I noticed something taped to the back of the folder. Estimated trust remainder, $947,000. Beneficiary, Danielle J. Monroe. My mother hadn't brought memories. She had brought research. I almost threw the entire folder in the trash. Instead, I shoved it into a drawer and poured myself coffee at midnight, while my stomach twisted itself into knots. 3 days later, another envelope arrived. Pink, covered in glitter tape and a crooked unicorn sticker. Inside was a letter written in purple crayon. Hi, Danielle. I'm Emma. Mommy says you're my big sister. I didn't know I had a big sister. I hope one day we can eat pizza together. I'm sorry everyone is fighting. Love, Emma. There was a stick figure drawing of us holding hands. She drew me taller than everyone else. And she gave me a cape. I stared at that picture for a long time. I wasn't angry at Emma. That was the problem. She wasn't the one weaponizing guilt and bloodlines and childhood memories. She was just a little girl, standing in the middle of a war she didn't understand. The next morning, Amanda, Grandpa's attorney, called me. "You need to come in." The moment I heard her tone, my stomach dropped. They filed a petition to challenge the trust. I blinked slowly. On what grounds? Undue influence, she said tiredly. They're claiming your grandfather wasn't mentally competent and that you manipulated him into cutting them out. I laughed so hard it actually hurt. At 22? While I was stocking shelves at a hardware store and taking night classes? Desperate people try desperate things. And my parents were desperate. That same night, I found a Reddit thread that made my blood boil. Would you help your broke parents if you inherited $1 million? The details were vague enough to avoid legal trouble, but specific enough that anyone who knew us could connect the dots. The comments painted me as selfish, cold, ungrateful. One sentence stood out. Sounds like she forgot who gave her life. I recognized my father's writing immediately. Same grammar mistakes, same habit of calling strangers champ. So I replied anonymously. Imagine abandoning your daughter for 15 years and then suing her for money someone else left her. Bold move, champ. The thread vanished an hour later. Too late. Screenshots were already circulating. That was when strangers started messaging me. One woman wrote, "My father left when I was 10 too. You don't owe them anything." Another message came from an estate lawyer. "Your grandfather protected you legally. If you want help fighting this, call me." For the first time since all this started, I realized something important. I wasn't alone anymore. But my parents weren't done. 2 mornings later, I walked outside and found my windshield cracked. A note sat beneath the wiper blade. "Rich girl, you owe your family." The security cameras caught only a blurry figure in a hoodie. Then came the email. "You should have stayed poor. You were easier to control that way." I read that line 3 times, and suddenly something inside me went cold. This wasn't guilt anymore. This wasn't reconciliation. This was punishment. Punishment for refusing to hand over the one thing they thought they deserved from me. I called Amanda immediately. "Is it time?" I asked. Her voice sharpened instantly. "It's time." The next 48 hours became a storm. Cease and desist letters, police reports, screenshots archived, evidence documented. Then Amanda did something even bigger. She contacted local newspapers. At first, I hated the idea. I didn't want cameras. I didn't want interviews. I didn't want my childhood turned into gossip. But Amanda looked me dead in the eyes and said, "They're counting on your silence." So we went public. The article hit online Friday morning. Veteran's granddaughter sued after inheriting trust from man who raised her. They used a photo of Grandpa James in his Navy uniform, beside one of us fixing the old flagpole outside his house. My parents looked terrible in the story. And suddenly, the internet shifted. Veterans groups defended me. Former classmates reached out. Even strangers began posting clips from Grandpa's letters. One comment made me cry harder than I expected. That man loved her more than her real parents ever did. Then another envelope arrived. Emma again. This time typed neatly. "Hi, Danielle. Mommy is really mad about the newspaper. Caleb says you seem nice, though. If you ever want to talk to me, here's my email." Attached was another drawing, me, Emma, Grandpa James, all holding hands. She gave Grandpa a medal, and me the cape again. I sat on my couch staring at it while tears burned behind my eyes. Because Emma saw something none of the adults did. She saw family. Not money, not inheritance, not leverage. Family. And it terrified me how badly I wanted to protect her from the people raising her. Before I could even process the feeling, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. Voicemail. My father's voice came through low and dangerous. You crossed the line, Danielle. You think lawyers can protect you? You made us look weak. And trust me, you're going to regret that. Click. I replayed it twice. Then I called Amanda. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I stopped reacting. I started preparing for war. The courthouse smelled like cheap coffee and old paper. Amanda walked beside me in sharp heels and a sharper expression, while my parents sat across the hall pretending they weren't terrified. Their lawyer opened first. Your Honor, my clients are simply requesting temporary access to the trust due to severe financial hardship. Amanda stood before he could finish. No, she said calmly. They are attempting to profit from the daughter they abandoned. And then the evidence started. Grandpa's notarized statements, medical records proving he was mentally sound, letters explaining exactly why he left everything to me. One video clip made the entire courtroom go silent. Grandpa sat on his porch holding a beer, smiling at the camera. If Dana and Ray ever come crawling back for money, he laughed, tell them to get lost. Even the judge almost smiled. Then I took the stand. I didn't give some dramatic speech. I just told the truth. I was 11 when they left me. No calls, no birthdays, no visits. Everything I am came from my grandfather. They didn't raise me. He did. The courtroom stayed quiet. Their lawyer tried to claim Grandpa manipulated me emotionally. Amanda shut him down instantly. James Monroe enrolled Danielle in school, paid for her health care, attended her conferences, and cared for her daily for over a decade. The only people who abandon family obligations are sitting at the other table. Then came the witnesses. Grandpa's Navy friend, Owen, my old teacher, even one of the hospice nurses. Every story pointed to the same thing. Grandpa chose me because he already knew my parents had not. After recess, the judge returned with the ruling. The petition is denied. The trust remains solely under the control of Danielle Monroe. That was it. Over. My father looked furious. My mother looked hollow. Neither of them looked at me when they walked out. Outside the courthouse, Amanda asked quietly, "How do you feel?" I looked up at the sky for a long moment. "Free," I said, and for the first time in years, I meant it. The drama faded after that. The online posts disappeared, relatives stopped calling, the silence returned. But this time, it didn't hurt. Then, one afternoon, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside was another drawing from Emma. 3 stick figures. Me, Grandpa, her. We were eating ice cream. At the bottom, she wrote, "I still think you're my big sister." I framed it. Put it beside Grandpa's picture on the mantle. Maybe one day, when she's older, I'll explain everything to her. Maybe I'll tell her the truth about family. That love isn't blood. It isn't guilt. It isn't obligation. It's staying. Grandpa taught me that. My parents abandoned me when I had nothing. They came back when I had everything. But everything I have came from the one person who never asked for anything in return. Grandpa James Monroe.